What is up, guys? Today is day 20 of learning Spanish. Now, on my last video, I got some comments, which is fantastic. I love discussion, and we've got some questions and critiques about how I could improve my method, and some other questions too. So, let's get into it. Actually, before we do that, I'm going to prove to you guys that I've been doing my homework. Story 14, Part A, Part B, Story 15, Part A and Part B. So, just in case you guys are curious, quick recap. Pretty much, I go on Link, which is an app that I use, and I copy all the mini stories down. And this is my method of learning, pretty much Spanish. And I've been doing this for 20 days now. Actually, well, 15 stories, but 20 days of writing. And that is pretty much my method. And anyway, but I've put it up for everyone to think about perhaps what I should be doing better. Anyways, let's get into it. So, first person said, "This is awesome. Do you have any favorite beginner videos on YouTube?" Not really. My experience with watching YouTube videos about Spanish is very, very, very limited. I've had a lot of experience watching videos on how to learn languages in general, but in terms of specific to Spanish and the foundations of that, no, I don't actually have any good recommendations. I'm simply not experienced enough to tell you. Really the method that I've shown is the absolute extent of it all. However, I will say that I did try and watch the Fundamentals of Spanish video, which went for like 4 hours or something, and I was like, cool, fuck yeah, I'm gonna learn all the rules. And then bam, after this I can just go straight into comprehensible input. But I found that the video was just, I mean, it's intense and it's very relevant and it's very well put together. However, to me, learning 4 hours of rules is just a fucking nightmare for me. It was just, nah, I just couldn't do it. So I got through 20 minutes of it and I was like, nah, forget it. So no, I don't really have any recommendations in terms of videos. And then, is there really anything specific that I find more difficult? I'm gonna also say no, because I take it because everything's difficult. Like the whole entire language is different. This is the thing with learning languages. It's like everything is hard. There's nothing is like a lot of it like nothing's really the same. In fact, it's lucky that Spanish and English is actually similar in the alphabet. But other than that, like it's very different. It's very different. So it's not easy at all. I'm never ever gonna admit that learning Spanish would be an easy thing to do. It's not. So, but you mentioned that learning the gender of the nouns is a bit hard, and you haven't really found a way to get it to understand it, then go through every noun and try to learn whether it's masculine or feminine. Now, what I would say to that, from me, not that you should listen to me that intently, but I find that figuring out the way that deciphers which noun is masculine or feminine seems like a counterproductive and a waste of time from my perspective. Because, well, it's a difficult thing to do. How are you going to accumulate so much knowledge so you can know whether a noun is masculine or feminine? I mean, maybe it's not as much knowledge as I think, but I think that something like that would require a deep understanding of Spanish so you can just know which new words, which words are going to be, which new words that you learn that are going to be masculine or feminine. Anyway, look, I think the approach mainly that I'm probably going to take to it, perhaps you should too, or perhaps I'm wrong, but is to sort of submit yourself to the fact that you're not going to understand what makes a noun masculine or feminine. So you're going to sort of you're going to surrender yourself, and you're going to be humble to the fact that you're not going to understand a lot of things, and that you're just going to be attentive to when you're just going to listen over and over and over, and you're going to just sort of just get the hang of it. I know that sounds a bit silly, but I think that exposure over time, you will end up sort of figuring that out. But I wouldn't be so concerned about the way in which deciphers whether a noun is masculine or feminine. I think just getting used to the fact that that's masculine, that's feminine, that's the way you say that, that's the way you say this. A lot of the things that that are in your native language, you wouldn't be able to describe exactly why it is that way. You just have heard it so many times that that's just the way to do it. And you never really asked questions at that time, probably because you were 1 year old learning your first language. But at the same time, that's sort of the way we learn. I don't really think there is much utility in diving deep into the reason why certain things like that uh, happen, to be honest. But that's a really good comment. Next person says, this is a good way to build vocabulary and understanding of the grammar. I agree. However, I think including input from Spanish videos can help build pronunciation like easy Spanish. This is completely valid. There's not even that much I would say to that because I have been prioritizing my understanding of the grammar, writing things down, so my writing and reading, so my ability to identify ink on a piece of paper and translate that within my brain, that is the skill that I'm practicing. So if you think that incorporating some degree of listening practice, which is converting sounds into translation within your brain, then that is a perfectly reasonable suggestion. So, and I think that is perfectly valid. I think the reason why I haven't done that yet, just because of my learning style is very sort of rigid. I do reading and then I go listening and then I go speaking. It's very sort of block. I'm a bit structured like that, so I feel like that is partially a personality trait of mine. But I would say that that's a fair enough comment. In fact, it's a great suggestion. The next person says, keep it up, try to read out aloud sometimes, and don't translate everything sometimes, learn the words from context. And that is completely true. Yeah, although I would say I do translate every single word. I think that is beneficial to at least have a reference. I agree by learning through context. I'm absolutely on the same page with that. But I also think that having a definition there in English is at least good to give you an idea of what it might possibly be. But I don't think taking the English translation of the word seriously is a good idea at all, because that's gonna mess up your brain. But I do think having a definition there is not a terrible thing as long as you don't take it seriously. But I might actually try some sort of method without having to translate everything. I'm not really sure how I do that. That's all. But I understand the perspective you're coming from, and I think I agree 80% with that one. And then the last one, it says that I should download HelloTalk and get a teacher from italki. So I did a bit of research. HelloTalk seems like it is a language exchange. I think it's a language exchange. So it's like two people from different countries that speak their native tongue and they want to learn each other's languages and then communicate. Now, the good thing with that is that it's going to force you to speak. So you're going to have to be put in a position where you need to force to speak. Which is a good thing at the right time. I think that me being on day 20, I shouldn't put myself in a position where I need to speak. And the reason being is because I've learned through experience when I was learning Chinese, there was a threshold to which I should start incorporating some speaking practice. But it confuses me sometimes when people are trying to output before they have inputted. And you cannot output without input. So, and I get ad suggestions all the time. It's like, I get ad suggestions all the time on Instagram and stuff. It's like, download this app called JumpSpeak. It gets you right into speaking and you'll learn how to be native in you'll learn how to be fluent in like a month. That is complete scam, complete bullshit. No one, because if it was true, then I would suggest to people out there to just try speaking now in a language that you want to learn. You want to learn French? Speak French now. Go on. It's like, well, what do I start with? I need something to consume before I can repeat it. You know what I mean? So that method of learning is a little bit flawed. And people might say, oh, but children learn that way. And that's complete bullshit, because children have been exposed to literally tens of thousands of hours of input before they begin to speak, and or at least only 5% of their speaking ability is, they can only output about 5% relative to their input, which has been just a ridiculous amount. So we don't necessarily just learn through speaking. We don't do that at all. There is a stage and there is a time and place for that. So, and then the next suggestion was get a teacher from italki. Now, teaching, I don't actually have a really problem with the teaching at all. But like I would say, there is the threshold where once you get above sort of the fundamentals and the basics, is that you'll sort of reach a point where comprehensible input sort of is a more productive use of time. But getting a teacher for Mindtalker, that's fair enough. The only problem with me in relation to me and my method is that I'm not, I don't really have much money. So, and I'm not sure if I'm willing to pay for that. However, I would suggest that that actually is a pretty good idea to get a teacher. I mean, fair enough. But I can imagine a lot of people watching might be curious to see what it's like without a teacher, essentially, and to go through that process. So, those are all very relevant comments. I appreciate it. I appreciate the interaction. It makes this whole thing really fun for me and hopefully insightful for some other people. So, if you're curious about anything else, actually, before I do that, I want to say I want to get the insights and what I'm going to do to actually change it, because I don't want to come across as a fraud and then I'm not going to change my method. I think I am going to start incorporating some listening practice. I feel like to me that sounds like something that could be of benefit at this stage. You know, I'm coming towards the last 10 days of the 30-day sort of period, and I think that it might be a good place to at least start listening to what Spanish sounds like in real life. So I think that that's a good next step. That's sort of what I gained a little bit from the comments. Or perhaps maybe I'm just being selective, but I think that's what I'm going to do. So anyway, if you guys want to know anything else, if you guys want to know anything else, then feel free to let me know. And that's it. Cheers.